Of course I think we can win, and I'm fighting every single day to win.
We've now put forward a plan that... Is that bird worrying you?
Yeah. They're afraid of us. They can see that our movement is growing.
Well, you're not going to have a stand in the Parliament.
Let there be 1,000 lessons learned as far as I'm concerned.
This is the 4ZZZ Break the Election podcast for the Queensland state election in 2024. Hello and welcome to 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast, just 10 days away from the 2024 Queensland state election. My name's Alexis Pink and I'm the news coordinator for 4ZZZ, and joining me in studio today are...
Hi, I'm Tasmiya.
Charlize.
And I'm Mack.
Thank you everyone for joining us.
Oh, our pleasure.
In this podcast series, we'll be bringing you up to date with the election and breaking down what's being said and why. So, Charlize, how about you lead us off today?
Opposition leader David Crisafulli and Premier Stephen Miles are set to go head-to-head in the second leaders' debate today, starting from 12:30pm at the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre. This week, the leaders were out and touting their election promises, with Miles announcing a $50 million expansion to the Rockhampton Hospital Emergency Department, and Crisafulli promising Ipswich would be the location of the LNP's proposed regional reset camps and crime prevention schools. They will have the opportunity to ask each other questions before fielding questions from the media.
Okay, so did everyone catch the first debate?
I only caught snippets of the highlights afterwards, and it was relatively respectful, but it was certainly something... I just want to keep hearing more, because there's been so many developments in the time since.
There have been quite a lot of developments since then. The abortion and voluntary assisted dying stuff has been dominating certain parts of the media cycle. Certainly hasn't been helping David Crisafulli at all. Tasmiya, do you expect to see a lot about that on the debate today?
Definitely. Stephen Miles posted about it 2 days ago, and he posted a whole reel on Instagram being like, this is disgusting, this is horrific. So I think that'll be one of his main talking points.
So it hasn't all been one-way traffic. The ALP has also been having a little bit of trouble out on the campaign trail every so often, especially around spending commitments. The free lunches thing, while well received by people who might need a free lunch, has also been not as well received in some education circles. Are we expecting to see him being more accountable for some of those choices, especially on big spending things like $1.6 billion for school children to receive lunches?
Absolutely, and $50 million to improve the Rockhampton Hospital, and all the money needed to create the state-owned electricity company. There's a lot of big spenders he's got on his budget plans, but it's definitely something they're going to grill down on, because it's the LNP playbook, talk about Labor as if they're, big spenders only and whatever, but that's going to be their angle, surely, would have to be.
All right, so all three of you, do you think anything that could be said in this debate is going to change your mind about your vote?
Personally, no, not a thing.
Neither.
No.
Yeah, so that is the worry for especially Stephen Miles at the moment, that there may not be that many votes to win, especially considering their current position. Because
a lot of the people who are really eager to vote for the LNP are more than likely really personally focusing on government debt and youth crime. That's pretty much the only real things they would sort of care about. It's been in the news. It's the things that they consume the most. It's things that they're worried about.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah.
We should probably move on. Tasmiya.
Liberal National Party leader David Crisafulli has made a pitch to Queenslanders on the state's finances, saying that they will have respect for people's money. In a media conference yesterday, Mr. Crisafulli criticised Labor for making spending commitments using debt funding, adding his approach will address debt through spending less on consultants and advertising and dropping the proposed Pioneer Burdekin Dam. Mr. Crisafulli said that debt spending would be reserved for generational infrastructure projects.
So, yeah, we're starting to get an idea of what the opposition is going to do as far as their finances are concerned. What do you think he actually means by respect for money here?
Is it just a buzz phrase?
So,
what does that mean?
Yes and
bang
no.
for buck?
Yeah, it does seem to be a bit of a yes or no thing. So it does seem to be not increasing taxes, not increasing debt, but... this is part of the problem with the way they've been selling this idea since the start. Well, if it's not going to be debt spending and it's not going to be increasing taxes, where is this all coming from? And what they're saying in this one is, well, we're going to remove some big infrastructure projects and spend less on advertising and, don't hire consultants. But that's not the biggest part of the budget. Not at the moment, anyway. Like the Pioneer Burdekin stuff, yeah, $24 billion, but it's spread over better part of 10 years. It's not all going to come out of one budget. It's not going to save them that much money. The vast majority of spending by state governments is still public servants.
And they wouldn't want to cut back too much. They've been on that recently, haven't they?
Well, this is the claim that Labor has been making since the start. It's the only way to do what they're suggesting to do is to cut public servants, but they've been denying that they want to cut public servants since the start.
Such a bizarre way to keep going on about this. Like, we have to save money by doing the one thing that would save us the most money.
Does anyone take seriously these particular promises? Do we think that Christopher Lee can balance the budget in the way that he is saying he's going to be able to balance the budget? Do we have confidence in his ability to do that?
I don't.
You don't?
No, because looking back at other proposals he has made, like the youth camps and his opinion on Katter Australian Party repealing of the abortion laws, everything he says contradicts himself. So what I spoke about last week was he didn't want to be like the 2012 government, which had the, what was it called again? The Newman?
Yeah.
The Newman camps. Yet he's literally doing that again.
He has been saying he doesn't want to call them camps.
Yeah.
But they look a lot like camps. They look a lot like the previous
quack.
policy.
So, no.
Well, that's not an unreasonable thought.
Yeah.
We should probably go on to this last story very quickly. The Courier-Mail has released exit polling from early votings that suggests the LNP is on its way to forming a majority government in the election. The poll was taken from 100 voters in pre-poll centres across all electorates, with the primary votes for the LNP collectively at 48%, Labor on 30%, Greens on 8%, One Nation on 7%, Katter on 1.5%, and the others on 4%. Pathologist Dr. Kevin Bonham says they would be surprised if the estimated 14% swing against the LNP came to fruition on election day. I think I would be too. That is way outside the predictions of virtually any of the polls leading up to the election.
Which really begs the question, how do they acquire this data, and what sort of data figures are they using for such a massive swing?
Also, it's only been 2 days of the early voting polls, so not that much evidence.
Well, there are some big questions around that methodology. Going out to the various pre-polling areas and taking 100 votes at random would probably not give you a good representative sample for the entirety of the electorate.
I also think there's a very specific demographic that votes early.
Yeah, people with time on their hands specifically. I mean, not so much in, say, the Brisbane City polling centre, which is close to workplaces. You get a lot of workers over lunch, for example. But yeah, you can get quite biased results that way.
Absolutely.
The people who have the most amount of time available to them are retirees and students.
And even then, students might also be similarly busy.
And they may not be all that interested in talking to the Courier-Mail. One of the other things that could come up is polling bias, where, you say, I'm X from the Courier-Mail, can you tell me about your vote? You might go, no. And that's the end of that conversation. There is a thing called statistical random sampling, and there is no way they could have applied an appropriate statistical random sample across those electorates. It just doesn't look like that sort of work.
Absolutely not. It would have been far more accurate if they had a few more days at the very least, perhaps over the weekend even, if they were able to get a much wider, varied amount of information, more amount of people than simply 100 over a few pre-polling places as well. But it's like they've just let the horse bolt way too quickly on this information just to get a good story out the door.
It's quite possible. And that's all the time we have for 4ZZZ Breaks the Election podcast today. For more updates, you can find us on 4ZZZ in our morning bulletins, Brisbane Line on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at midday, and make sure to catch the Pineapple Rebellion at 9 a.m. on Fridays. If you want to support the project, subscribe to 4ZZZ at 4ZZZ.org.au/support. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back tomorrow. Goodbye!
See you later!